Hey, I wanted to talk to you guys about the spirit of slavery. Um, I'm just going to share how I got to the understanding that there is, in fact, a spirit of slavery. Had no idea. I just learned this a few weeks ago, and I've been doing a study on it in Exodus, actually, and I will be sharing that soon. I'll be doing a live video on it soon, and I'll update you guys on that. So, hi, my name is Judy. Thanks for joining. So, some of you guys know, but some of you guys don't. But I've been going through a Job season, and I'll share here and there. If you follow my business, Entice to Renew, on social media, you kind of know that I had some situations where I didn't know if I was going to have to shut down Entice to Renew, but that was just Abba taking me through some stages, because we have to remember that he uses all things, okay? He uses all things for his glory and our good, right? And I had the opportunity, I was blessed with the opportunity to speak to a friend of a friend. And this woman's name is Mary, and she's out here, and I'm assuming she's out here in North Carolina, I believe. I know she's in the South, but anyway. We were talking, because I had some questions about like dreams and stuff like that. We were just having a conversation. And I was just mentioning, I was like, yo, when I was in Jersey, I was like thriving and everything. And then I moved out here, and like everything kind of just started falling apart. And she was like, well, yeah, it's going to fall apart because the spirit of slavery. And I was like, what you mean? Wait, what? Huh? And she was like, yeah. She was like, yeah, there's a spirit of slavery. She mentioned, she was like, the only reason they stopped is because the South lost the war. It had nothing to do with them actually wanting to end slavery. They only stopped because they had to. So they're very much in agreement with slavery still. So basically, I'm assuming that slavery is a principality. I still have to study the difference between, I can't even think of the verse off the top of my head, the principalities, the rulers of the darkness, and I feel like there's another layer. Again, on the top of my head, I just can't even think about it right now. But I want to study the difference, right? But I just know the principalities are higher. They're more like higher ranking evil spirits. All right, Bumblebee. Can we not do this right now? While I'm doing a video. Chill. Go. Thank you. Anyway. So, it decided to fly in my face. Okay. But, so we're talking about this, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I'm like flabbergasted. Like, I'm just mind blown. And I'm like, yo, that makes so much sense. But she's saying that a lot of melanated people, they move from the north to the south, and then, they start experiencing loss. She was like, think about it. She was like, if you have slavery in your bloodline, she was like, that spirit is going to have legal right. And, it's going to hinder you in a lot of ways, because you got to think about a life of a slave. Are you allowed to own anything? Are you allowed to do this? Are you allowed to do that? So it's going to hinder you. And I'm like, that makes so much sense. Like, it makes so much sense. Again, still mind blown. So freaking mind blown. And she was like, you have to emancipate. You have to. Why must you do that? Anyway, you have to emancipate yourself from these evil spirits. And so I'm like, okay, and I do have a prayer that I'll share. I'll link it in the description. It is a PDF, so I'll just I'll just put the link down there. This bee just don't want to let up. Do you not want me talking to the people about this? I'm going to now. They're about to chase me in the house. These little freaking suckers. They just irky. Anyway. I'm going in the house. See, I get to see me fighting with these dang bugs in person. So Yeah. And then I started to make the link between what I learned about this slavery thing and my neighborhood. Because the one thing I've always been asking is, what happened here? I'm like, Abba, what happened here? Like, we know, yes, I know I live in the South. Yes, there's slavery, but I'm like, there's something about this triad area that I just been questioning. Every time I'm outside, I'm like, what happened here? Because if you pay attention to the water of a place, you can tell that there's some judgment there. Like, you know what I mean? And when you go walking, like, I'm like, yo, this place had to once upon a time look like an entire Eden. Like, because when you walk these trails, they are beautiful. And you can tell that they had high, I don't even know what to call it. Like, I would call it a creek now, but I don't know, streams. Maybe that's the right word. Like, you can tell they had streams of flowing water, like streams upon streams, high streams too, like a good amount of feet. And I'm like, it's all barely dried up with stagnant water, little trickles. And again, I'm always like, Abba, what happened? Well, just thinking about this whole slavery thing, things like that. I had a thought about where I vended. It's called the Mendenhall House, Mendenhall Place, or something like that, in Jamestown. I vended there for 3 years, and they go back into the, I don't know, saying colonial time is the right thing, but back in the day. And if I recall, I think they actually had some slaves too. I don't know if it's correct to say. I don't know how they treated the slaves, but I know that they were a part of the Underground Railroad, helping people get set free. So I'm assuming that they did right by the slaves that they did own. The fact that they probably shouldn't have owned them. But during that time, if they did, it sounds like that they did their due diligence to do right by them. I actually spoke to a woman when I was vending, and she was married to a Mendenhall. And she was saying that her mother-in-law had gifted her a quilt. And the quilt, each space on the quilt had a symbol, like a picture or whatever. And it represented a message. And a lot of people in the area would have those. And they would literally hang that on their house. And if you were a part of, the Underground Railroad, just helping, the blacks escape to the north and everything, people would see like, oh, this is a safe space. Okay, let me travel this way. This is the direction you go. Don't go here. Stop there. Like, whatever. And basically a map. And I'm like, yo, in the communication system, I'm like, yo, that is so cool. And then it dawned on me, like, wait, that means this land, like, this area was high traffic. Like, this area, the history, it's the, like, how do I explain this? It's one thing to say, oh, there were slaves in the South, you know what I mean? There was slavery in the South, whatever. But it's different when you don't know what happened on the land, these houses, these homes that you're renting is built on, And I'm like, yo, there's just so much to this. And so I'm like, whoa, that's what it was. That's what it was. Especially with High Point, because High Point was like the furniture capital of the world. And you see a lot of desolate spots. You see spots that are thriving, desolate spots, the rich area. Like, it has a little bit of literally everything. And so I'm like, that's what happened here. This is like the hot spot. Basically, this is the hot spot. And I'm like, wow. So a lot of times the way Yah speaks to me, like, things will come up like this, right? And I prayed against it, and I actually started to see a difference. Again, I'll share the prayer, but I was like, where is this in your word? Like, I need to see this. Like, I know the Bible talks about slavery, right? And then if you do have slaves, there's a proper way that you're supposed to actually treat them. And one of the scriptures that, what is it? When Moses basically told Pharaoh, like, it was a message from Yah, like, let my people go so they may worship me. Okay. That's a paraphrase. That was one of the scriptures that I stood on in the prayer. And I was like, you know what? There's a lot here that I'm using, right? But let me actually read the book of Exodus. And so I started reading into Exodus, and oh my goodness, because it was just mind-blowing and very insightful. Because one of the things I've noticed is it really goes into why Israel was so stiff-necked. A lot of times we look at the Bible and we're like, oh, well, we judge them so much. And I'm like, yo, we know different. We are no different today. Like, there is no literal difference. None. And so I'm like, we really got to have some compassion. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying excuse their behavior, but I'm like, we really reflect and look at ourselves. We are no different from them. And there were a lot of things that Yah really like brought out. Like, I'll share, like, the one thing is Exodus 6:9, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have my book on me, right? I'm just sharing here. Because the next time when I do the live, well, is it going to be a live? Yeah, it's going to be a live. I'll get into the scriptures more, so that way you'll have that reference and can meditate in and all of that stuff. It talks about how the reason why they didn't hear Moses is because they were anguished in spirit and the cruel bondage. Those two things. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's literally right here. Literally right here. Like, Yah told Moses why they're not listening to him, or why they have that, their heart of hearing. And it's not just listening, right? Hearing is not just listening in Hebrew. It's actually listening to understand and actually apply what you heard and what you're understanding. And so I'm like, oh my goodness. And I started to think about myself, because every time I look at scripture or I notice something in the Bible, or even when someone tells me their testimony or something they're walking through, I'm like, I kind of like apply that to myself. And I'm like, is there anything that I'm doing that's similar? What can I take away from what I'm hearing? And that's what I did. And I'm like, yo, I've been getting set free from Egypt. And you're probably like, how? We don't live physically in Egypt. Well, honey, look at the land of America, okay? Yeah, they say it's a land of freedom, but everyone's mind is under bondage. Everyone is so in bondage. And it was like a universal spell over so many people. And that's why a lot of people are waking up and they're like, I don't want to be a physical slave. Because physical slavery is still there. This is why so many people are stressed out today, through their work, people pleasing and all of this other stuff that they're enduring. Then you got the trafficking on so many levels. The sex trafficking, the child trafficking, the labor trafficking. There's so many forms of trafficking. That's modern day slavery too. And then you have the mental slavery where the anguish comes in, because that's the mental health, right? That anguish in spirit, that's what keeps you in the rumination. And, like the depression, the fear, the doubt, unbelief, like all of that. So I was just like, yo. And it's just so much to this. And I'm like, this is way bigger than I realized. But I'm just going to stop there. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop right here. But I just wanted to share this with you because it's very, very important. It's so important for us to know our history. And it starts in the Bible. Our history literally starts in the Bible, the book. That's our history book. I need you to understand, this is our history book, okay? And Yah will always bring everything back to his word. Sometimes you might get something, you be like, what? How is this even? It's in there. It's in there. We might be missing it sometimes, but he will open the eyes of your understanding. Ask for him to open the eyes of your understanding when you are reading the word. I guarantee you, he will do it. He will honor your request because the truth shall set you free. Okay? And he is truth. His word is truth. All right? And when you apply that truth to your life, you will get set free. Just this study alone, y'all have no idea. You have no idea. You have no idea how big this has been for me. Yeah. And it's interesting because I've never looked into slavery before. I have not been taught my history. I've learned it. I was blessed with a high school history teacher. He was Caucasian. And I mention that because he was the one who opened my eyes to a lot of this stuff, to the government, to the truth about the holiday we call Thanksgiving, about what happened. He did not teach from the history book. There was things about slavery I had no idea. There was things about America I had no idea. And he was like, the history books only teach you one perspective because they want to make themselves look good, you know? And I actually emailed him not a few days ago. Did not email him a few days ago. Maybe last year at some point. And I told him, thank you. I had to go on my high school website and I was like, he still works there. And I'm like, thank you. His name is Mr. Nazareth. It's like, thank you for how you taught us. You taught me how to think for myself. You taught me how to really pay attention. You taught me not to just trust the media because media comes from medium and we know mediums is not of Yah. You know, the media lies. It lies so much. And there's people that's just taking it blatantly for what they're saying. And they are not telling you the truth. And then there are prophets, leaders, pastors, or things like that are being brought up in deception. And some of them think that they know the truth. And they still don't know the truth, sadly. Sadly, okay? It's a lot. It's a lot. But I just thanked him for that. Because if it wasn't for him, I still would have been looped up in the nonsense. You know, I would have been a person that was looped up in the nonsense. But I just wanted to share that with y'all today because this is a topic that I'm passionate about and I didn't even realize, but it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. But I will be sharing more soon and it will be more in detail and clarity. And yeah, so I hope this blesses you. Read the book of Exodus. Take even just what I said, right? Just open the book of Exodus and ask Yah some questions. Everything starts with a question. It's one thing I'll testify about. Everything that I've walked into has always started with a question. Always started with a question. And I did a video about questions. So if you want to know the importance of a question, go check out that video. Okay? Yeah, so y'all have a blessed day.